All right. Well, it's 3 on the dot, so I am going to go ahead and get started. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you're on the call or on this webinar, this is something near and dear to my heart. I'm a people person. I love people. I love cultivating people. And so today we're going to dedicate our time to looking at talent trends for 2023, how you can attract, retain, maintain your employees, and then looking at what are the 5 things that we're eyeing. So this is a hot topic. I know everyone's thinking about this, and so going into the next year, I think this is really important. So let's go ahead and get started, and then hopefully I don't have any technical difficulties, but you never know with the computer. So let's get started. We've had all the play on words, and now I've created a new one called the Great People Challenge. So employees and employers have been facing a slew of different people challenges that began really before COVID, but COVID really has seemed to escalate a lot of those things. But from acknowledging burnout, burnout was a big thing that was on everyone's mind. And then, transitioning that into the battle between how generational working styles have been working together and acknowledging the value that each generation brings to the workforce. There were several employees pre-COVID that were already remote working, and we're feeling those challenges from employees around remote work of like, well, why do I have to be in the office? Can we have some more flexibility? Is there a different kind of working style that we may be able to cultivate? And then in comes COVID. As everyone knows, that progressed it drastically and changed how we will essentially work forever, honestly. And some could argue that COVID just put a light on issues that were already there and were very much present in the workforce when it came to balance, efficiency, and purpose. Then came along the Great Resignation as people started to think about those things. They started to think about, well, is where I'm working valuing me? And do they value my flexibility? What does that look like? And so you started to see this competition for labor and people thinking about moving and this push and pull, and we're still experiencing that. Then comes along things like quiet quitting. That's been a hot topic for everyone lately. And so we've got that mixed with the increased cost of living. So now you can just really see that employers, employees, leaders, business owners, everyone is facing all of these things at the same time. And many of our clients are reporting that they are experiencing people challenges like never before. So that too is just why it's so important. We thought it would be great to put this together for everyone. And again, get some topics on the table here for everybody to be thinking about as they're entering in to the next year. So what is next? That is the question on everyone's mind. What is next? What do we do? How do we balance all of these knowns and also continue to run a business without setting our hair on fire? The answer is honestly, it is extremely nuanced. It's going to take approaches from several different angles. And business owners, leaders, and managers are going to have to rethink how they are approaching all of those angles. Everyone has their own opinion around what a manager is actually supposed to do. Some people think that a manager is the best at doing whatever the team does. That person should be the manager. While this can be beneficial from a very tactical perspective for the team, if that manager or leader is not pairing that with exceptional team and people management skills, ultimately your organization is likely going to suffer. So what's next for the Great People Challenge? Today we're going to break down what we're seeing on the horizon as it comes to this. But first, who are we and what gives us credit to speak on this? So here at Ferguson Alliance, we are business advisors that are passionate about helping businesses continue to push and thrive into what we call the prosperity zone. So this is the place where you can really feel all of your collective efforts that you're putting forth, creating value for your business, your team, your customers, and your suppliers. It's really what we view as a win-win for all of our shareholders and stakeholders in the organization. And so if you have some time, I encourage you to check out our online video library. We've done several webinars this year around the prosperity zone and breaking down each one of those zones. And it's really handy in assessing what your business needs. It gives lots of tips, tricks, pointers into breaking down where you feel like you need to do the most work in your business to optimize in that zone. So our team includes David Schlossberg, he's a fellow advisor here, and Rob Ferguson is the founder of the Ferguson Alliance. And so all three of us have worked multiple decades in family businesses as executives, shareholders, and or board members. And who do we work with? We are dedicated solely to family-owned businesses. And we work exclusively for businesses that are privately owned by a family. We feel like family businesses are so crucial to the success of our economy, and our goal is to help those businesses live as long as they would like. Family businesses are complex. You have not only the professional point of running that business, but you also have that layer of the personal aspect of it on it as well. And we like those complex situations. And so we're up for the challenge and navigating this with you. So what's our day going to look like today? We're talking all about the people. And if you can't tell, I'm pumped about that. People are my jam. I have operated a business. I understand that you cannot do it without people. And so our goal, always the biggest challenge in a business is the people aspect of it. So I'm excited here to help you with that. And so we want to take a look at what you need to get right about your people. Then what are 5 trends that we're watching as we're going into 2023, and what are our thoughts around that? Then what's in store for 2023? I think everyone is staring into this crystal ball, it's like trying to see anything worth latching on to, some sort of something in there. And while we do not have the answers, we have many ideas and thoughts on the best way to be prepared. And then lastly, we'll talk some next steps and look at our upcoming one-day workshop, really centered all around planning for 2023, not just for people, but in all aspects of your business as well. We welcome all of your questions and your comments. Our business name is the Alliance. We truly feel like no one person or company holds all of the answers. We continue to learn from our clients, from each other, and from all kinds of resources. So even if you don't have a question, but if you have a tip, a trick, something that you tried, whatever, if it pertains to this topic and you want to share it, drop that in the chat too at the end. We'll check that out. If there's anything in there, we'll be sure to share it with the group, or y'all can welcome to share as we go through. So we love that. Please feel free to do that. So let's get into it. And I'm sorry, I am excited. So I do tend to talk a little fast. So in my mind, I'm telling myself to slow down. So I'll try to keep that in mind. But if you want to put in the chat, talk slower, I'll take note of that as well. But getting it right with your team is critical, and it doesn't leave much wiggle room. It's like your reputation, right? You can do so many things to build up a good one, and one bad thing can really knock you down. So it's critical to think about if you're getting it right with your people. And like your strategy, how you attract, retain, and motivate your team is something that, you really have to consistently work, rework, reanalyze, and then reinvigorate continually. It's really not something that you can just do once and it's right. You have to continually be changing it. Just like we saw on that previous slide, there have been so many people things that we have been battling. So therefore, we've got to keep adjusting our strategy towards it. And so attracting the right people starts with thinking about what you give, not only what you get from the potential person coming to your team. What does the right candidate need from their employer that you can give them? What about your business is going to add value to their life and their work experience? So if you start to think on this and you're feeling like a little stuck, don't think too small. Really do some research. What are similar organizations like yours or even your competitors offering? Then dig into what about your business sets you apart? What makes you you, and how can you capitalize on those things to attract the best people into your business? And so then once you get them there, how do you retain them? Think about, like, do you ever feel kind of played by your cell phone carrier or your cable provider where they went all out? They gave you all kinds of discounts, free stuff. They got you in the door. You signed that contract. You became their customer. And then poof, their strategy is getting more people in the door, but they don't work much strategy around how can they retain their customers. So don't make it where they got what they needed out of you and like be done with it. Don't let this be the attitude with your team. Your team gets a choice. And so what are you going to do to make sure that they are choosing you? Are you going to make an investment in continuing their education? Are you going to hire a professional coach to help progress their growth and skills? Are you going to grow and cultivate your culture and ask for their feedback on that? What kind of fun activities can you build into your work culture? What kind of career opportunities can you show them that are available to them, to where you're reinvesting in them to create value in the business? And so then you've got to be motivating them. Are they empowered? Are they getting opportunities to stretch and grow? Are they being shown that there is a future and opportunities for them to progress? Do you have faith in them? I always tell this story, and this is my moment of vulnerability, but it's a good one because it is a learning lesson. And so it's a great example of this. Early in my career, as I was still a very novice manager, I did not directly manage this person, but they had a lot of daily interaction with my team. And this person was not in a role that they enjoyed. They weren't thriving. It was evident. This role was not motivating them. And honestly, no one was really putting in the work to figure out why and try to retain this employee. And then when I was asked about their performance during the performance evaluation phase of how they were interacting with my team, I was like, ultimately, like, I just don't really think that this person has what it takes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think that they really have a place in our organization. And then someone else that was part of this discussion was like, yeah, actually, I've seen some glimmers of hope and I've had some discussions with them. And I think that I would like to give them a chance on my team and see how they do. I think that maybe it's just a fit. We need to reassess where they're at. And so I was like, great, if you want to do that, try it out. And I'm so thankful that this person spoke up, because I'm happy to report that this person still works within the organization. They are in a higher role. They are thriving. You can tell they've taken the opportunity to learn about themselves and learn how to be a better supervisor. And so that showed me and really gave me the lesson of motivating employees by asking them, how do you feel about what you're doing? And so I invite you to do that. Have you asked enough questions? Do you have enough insight around your team and how they function and what they're doing and how that makes them feel? So just thinking about that in that example, there is a high cost of getting this wrong. The attracting, retaining, maintaining. If we just think about my story there, let's just think about that, and talk about the cost that would have come up if my suggestion to terminate this employee was taken and that opportunity was missed. The actual dollar cost, I mean, just the actual tangible costs. The Society for Human Resources estimates that it costs 6 to 9 months of a person's salary to replace them. So if you've got someone making 60,000 a year, that's going to equal $30 to $45,000 just to replace them, and that's not in recruiting fees. Although you can add that into that number if you use a recruiter, but this is just the cost associated with the time it takes to list the job, interview the candidates, potentially hire the wrong person and have to start all over again. Then the cost of the things that are going to fall through the cracks because someone is not there performing those tasks. And again, that's just the actual measured dollars. Let's then talk about the more intangible things like the loss in productivity by the team because they're not being led. Or maybe they are having to pick up the slack because this person's gone. And so now they don't have time to complete their regular tasks. Maybe the team is really sour about this person leaving. In my scenario, this could have very well been the case. And then likely this person would have talked in more depth with people on their team, and I was totally getting it wrong. And then they would have sacrificed their relationship with me through that because I was seeing it wrong. And so getting that clarity on this. And then if these situations start to happen more often, it can really lead to damaging your company's reputation at the same time. So you can really run the gamut there. Remember that this is not to say that you need to try to save every person and overlook things that need to be corrected. This is really just to say that you need to understand your people fully and ask the right questions. So one other thing that's changing is just how we manage people. That's constantly evolving. There have been several pivotal moments in history that have changed the way businesses have managed people. And now more than ever, it seems to be rapidly shifting and evolving faster and faster and faster. You know, we went from the Industrial Revolution really driving the need to implement laws around child labor and safety and long working hours, situations that gave cause for unions to advocate for workers. Then you have the command and control hierarchies, and this really reinforced who was in charge and set the tone, and everyone was expected to fall in line and obey the orders. Then, you know, women entered the workforce, and I'll try to sound as unbiased as possible about this, but, you know, women entering the workforce gave a whole different perspective to how businesses and everyone operated within that. And so that was huge. Then you've got the evolution of the change in business dress. While the situations are still there now for a full suit, they're a little fewer and far between than they used to be. The tech boom saw a totally, you know, new type of office style. The offices were full of games and perks, and how could you ever want to leave work if you have all of this here? Then again, we've got the remote work, the big one that's still on top of so many people's minds right now. Still such a debate in offices around getting that right. Several businesses were already doing this to some extent before COVID, but you know, COVID really came in like a big slap to the face and say, look, we already knew this. People can work from home and companies can provide some flexibility. And so while you can certainly choose to what degree you're gonna have flexibility to stretch, it is safe to say that some degree will likely be needed for your workforce. Even if it's just 2 degrees that you're stretching, I think if you are going to be firm in your no remote work, no flexibility, you have to have a really good reason to be able to describe that to your workforce. Then we've got diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's breaking down some of the norms that have been in the business world for so long, and making sure that more seats at the table are diverse and representative of what our population looks like. And look, it's going to continue to evolve. And the question is that you have to ask yourself, are you going to be proactive in that? Something tells me that if you are better equipped at the attracting, the retaining, and the motivating activities for your organization, the more successful your organization is going to be as it needs to pivot and evolve. So let's look at the 5 trends that we're paying attention to as business advisors as we move into 2023. These trends are going to be critical for your, again, ability to attract, retain, and maintain your workforce, the impact of your company's culture. And again, remembering that culture is your biggest differentiator. It is going to be what sets you apart from all of the others. And, you know, it kind of used to be like your competitors were your biggest competition, but really now, and especially when it comes to culture, every business becomes your competition for your workforce. And so that's huge. These trends are also going to determine what future opportunities lie for your company and your team. If your team is solid, strong, and invested, your company is going to be better prepared for the uncertainty that lies ahead. So as we go through this, we invite you to do an assessment of yourself and your business. We'll prompt you to do so, give you a little bit of time to think about it. So there's no benefit to not being honest with yourself. Only you're going to know the answer. You're not going to have to turn them in or anything. And then also, one other secret is that we do not ever find anyone that doesn't have some opportunity somewhere. Even the best of the best stay that way because they're always on this path of continuous improvement. So keep that in mind. You're not alone. So the first thing that we're looking at, and this is funny, employees want more and less from work. So what do we mean by that? So doing a time study was one of the most eye-opening things I have ever done, and I redo them constantly. So they say time is money, and well, my time always feels a lot like my money. I'm not always sure where it's going, and I could always use a little bit more. So it was suggested to me that I start to see exactly where all of my time was going. And that's down to everything, if it's logging what client you're working with or what kind of task you're working on. How often during the week are you spending in meetings, and how many of those meetings were scheduled, and kind of how many of them are ad hoc from someone in your organization. However you think it would be beneficial for you to track it. For me, it helped me feel less stressed and more determined to focus my time on the things that I needed to get done, and really figuring out what are the activities that seem to be wasting my time, so I can be more aware of them as they come up throughout the day. And this is honestly something you might want to encourage everyone in your organization to do. Employees today are wanting more time. They may need a little help in figuring out where to get that. So there's this meme that I've seen a lot. It says you have the same amount of hours in a day as Beyonce. So you can replace Beyonce with whatever celebrity your algorithm might choose for you. And then we could also debate for days the amount of staff that Beyonce has versus your own. But we're going to put that to the side now and just say, look, everybody gets 168 hours in the week. You can't load up more on your clock before the end of the week runs out. So what are you going to do with that time? And most of us are going to clock at least 40 hours of work, and that's going to take up about 24% of your week. If you're sleeping like you should, if you're sleeping like you should, that's going to take up another 24%. So that's going to leave roughly about 50% of the week left to live life. And so life meaning fun, obligations, errands, all the things. And at first you might say, I mean, in theory, that's okay, or that's a lot. But when it comes down to it, we really can't deny ourselves the idea that just because we say it seems sufficient doesn't mean that it feels that way. We all feel like we could use more time to live that life. Um, Anthony Klotz, he's a professor at Texas A&M, and he actually coined the term the Great Resignation. So he was quoted as saying, "There's now a greater ability for people to fit work into their lives instead of having lives that squeeze into their work." So all of that to say, employees are wanting to elevate some of that time that they have for living life, and kind of less trying to squeeze that life in between when they're working. So as employers, as leaders, as owners, we do have to acknowledge that that's what people are striving for, and how can we help them? How can we help ourselves and our team feel like they're getting more from work while taking less of them? Your team wants to feel purposeful. So you know that feeling when you're feeling purposeful. What you're doing may be hard, but it feels right and it feels worth it. And the reverse of this is when you're doing something and it's really hard and it keeps feeling hard to do it, and you don't understand why you're doing something and you don't see the end result as useful, you're not feeling purposeful. So you want to build a team that finds their purpose in the mission of the company. And right alongside that feeling of feeling valued and heard, right alongside that is that feeling that you're being valued and heard. Like, how many things have you done in your life that you did because you were just told to do it? Like, just do it. It can be better. Go do it. And I love to tell this story too. My husband had a team of employees that was working in the greenhouse, and their job was to assemble flats to get ready to ship. And so the greenhouse tables are very long, and they were walking trays from one end to the other. And they kind of had this idea, and they went to my husband. They're like, "Hey, we have this idea of maybe how we could move a little faster. Can we buy a few skateboards?" My husband was like, "Well, skateboards seem pretty cheap. Let's see what they got going on." So they bought two skateboards, and they kind of created this aisle down the middle of the table, wide enough to get the skateboard wheels down it. And they determined that they could put two flats per skateboard and then send it down the table where it needed to go. And this increased their efficiency really exponentially, and the investment was low. And so I just think it's a great solution for the task and a low investment. And so now imagine really as that employee having this idea and then not being listened to. That really changes the trajectory of your whole culture in your organization. So thinking about situations like that, listening, really also kind of borrowing from the improv rule of yes and, before you say no to anything, give it a yes and see where that may take you. Not to say that you're going to do that, but it's interesting. It opens up our minds a little bit, to where maybe they might default to being shut. And employees want to get back what they put in. Some would argue that, okay, yeah, they get a paycheck for that. I think that's kind of the historical thought. They get a paycheck for what they put in. But I really challenge you to find one employee that is only doing enough to earn their paycheck, just enough to earn their paycheck. Every person I come across leverages and sacrifices their own personal resources and network for the greater good of the company and the team. Every single person I've ever come across. Any person that just bakes cookies and brings them to the office for everyone to enjoy, they're putting more in than just for taking that paycheck. So let them know that you see it and that you appreciate it, and that's going to take you further than you may think. So it's assessment time. Item number one, employees want more and less from work. Give yourself a green light. If your team trusts you, trust that you have their best interests in mind. You work to make sure that your team understands their purpose. You listen to understand. Mark yourself as yellow if you do some of these things some of the time. And then mark yourself as red if you know you're struggling in this area and you need to focus more on this. So I'm going to give you like 10 seconds to grade yourself there on that. Okay. Maybe that wasn't 10 seconds, but I'll keep going. So the workplace, number two, the workplace continues to change, and emphasis on the place, because we are actually talking about the proper noun, the office, the home office, the client's office, all the places. Work is being conducted in so many places: the coffee shop, the Airbnb a few hours away, a few plane rides away. It's happening everywhere. And, we've already touched on remote work already. So I'll try to keep it brief on this one. But really, according to a survey done by Prudential Insurance, they're probably really interested how often we're going to be hitting the roads. But 9 out of 10 workers want the option to work from home at least one day per week. So again, this is really something that you're going to have to think about. What is going to be best for your organization? It's going to be specific to you and your needs. It's unlikely that you're going to gain a consensus from your whole organization, but it is crucial to think about what is going to be the best solution. When will everyone work? Where will they work? Where can they work from? How are they going to be working? And then thinking about what are the benefits and the downfalls to each of these scenarios. What does everyone think? Back to the being valued and heard. Listen, again, you're not going to satisfy everyone's goals 100%, but if they feel heard, they are more likely to understand why you chose the option that you did. This is also a great time to talk about boundaries in the workplace. So you want to talk about, is it okay to send a text at 9 p.m.? Are employees expected to check their email and respond after hours? Are you emailing after hours and setting an unintentional example? These are great things to think about during this. Something to consider with your organization's tolerance for flexibility. So will it impact any of your customer or client deliverables? Will it impact the operations in the organization if you choose to change when you work and how you work? Thinking about that, what expectations are you going to set and align in your organization? So how solid is your workplace? Give yourself a green if you're clear about how and where you work. If your organization is thriving both internally and externally with your current model and you feel confident that this is efficient. Give yourself a yellow if you've made some strides, you've changed some things, but you're still not sure if it's optimal. And then red is for if you do not have a clear direction of where and when people will work. If team members get to decide and it creates misalignment in the organization, or if tasks are dropped or due, if they're not turned in on time, be thinking about that. Then number 3, we're looking at the flexibility and structure of the organization. One of the clear indicators of a business being in its prime is really when it's discovered this balance between flexibility and structure. Swinging too hard to either one is not going to benefit your organization. Now, you're going to have a better indication of what this means for your business. But overall, it's when you have identified what level of flexibility is needed in the organization versus what level of structure is needed. So all businesses will be different due to the nature of whatever it is you're selling or service that you're performing. And it's going to take some time and some tweaks to determine the correct levels for your business through some trial and error. But for example, if you wanted to test out a 4-day work week, would you want to think about, what does this flexibility mean for your team? Would all of the people be off on the same day? So you only open Monday through Thursday? Or are you going to be open 5 days a week and some people are going to be off on different days? And is that going to impact the people that are there working? How's that going to look? Or what does that mean? Does your customer expect you to be open 5 days a week? How does that look like? So you want to deep dive all of those scenarios and see how far, you need to take the flexibility, or how far do you need to take the structure for your organization and all of your stakeholders to be able to take that on. Then you have to manage both in the same way. You have to be very transparent in your decisions, and you need to ask for feedback from your stakeholders in the process to make sure you're seeing it from all sides. Then you communicate accordingly. Poor communication can create some really low trust in the organization. So you want to make sure everyone is getting it right and everyone's getting the information and changes in an appropriate amount of time. So where is the structure and flexibility in your organization? It's green if you feel pretty balanced, if you've sharpened your skills at determining what situations need flexibility and which ones need structure. Again, yellow, this is like you're feeling like I figured some of it out, but communication could be better. We got to figure it out on a few other things. Or red is really like you've kind of been whipsawing between structure and flexibility, and no one knows what to expect and when, and your policies may change, and some people get the information and some people do not. So go ahead and think about how you would rate your organization there. All right. Then our next trend we are looking at is growth and feedback for your team. Building off of some of our earlier discussion on wanting more and less from work, two of the things that we are seeing trending is that people want more growth opportunities from their organization. This can come in the form of training or continuing education. Do they have a certain skill that they can build upon? What is the next level for their skill? Is there someone in the organization or in the industry that would be a great mentor for them? Could you provide someone or yourself with a professional coach in order to help in these things? These are often really underrated ideas and resources for an organization to take on. The ability to seek outside perspectives, specifically on business, is huge. And then there's the mental and physical wellness opportunities for organizations to provide for their team. I'm really honestly always pleased and impressed that most of our clients have really done well in this category. A lot of them have personal trainers that they bring in every week to work with the team, or they have on-site gyms. It's really great. And then feedback. Feedback is often, and I know as a manager, was one of the scarier things to do. But after I did it, I was always so glad that I did, because you always walk away with some really great nuggets of information that you're able to build upon. It is the hardest. I think as managers, we kind of shy away from it because we're scared of what we're going to hear. But business leaders need to take this on. Team members want it more often and less formal. So being more intentional with it, almost from a daily standpoint, can be a huge change maker. And then you also giving feedback for performance that has an opportunity to improve. Noting when someone has done something exceptionally well can put a huge exponential on their output. So redirecting the things that need to be redirected, but also making sure that we're acknowledging the things that are going well. That is often going to carry them and give them energy for days to come. So while keeping with your formal annual or biannual reviews, trying to shift the mindset and build in some more kind of less formal feedback opportunities can also really be great. And then I always encourage everyone to really exercise your own emotional intelligence muscle and be vulnerable and ask for feedback on your leadership style and decision making as well. And again, try not to be defensive. Really try to take that in and ask yourself why, even if that's not your intention, why someone may perceive you to be that way. So feedback is a two-way street. So thinking about that, how effective is your company at providing employee feedback? Green, they're intentional with it. You do it often. You have several opportunities for employees to seek growth. Yellow, you're good at doing your annual and your biannual performance reviews. You give feedback, but maybe it's only when someone's doing something wrong. And there are some growth opportunities, but maybe it's just for some employees and not for all of your employees. Red, maybe you're just doing your annual reviews at most, and there aren't a lot of growth opportunities that you're providing for your organization. So I'll give you a second to rate yourself for that. And then we're going to move on to our fifth and final trend. And this is not something that's new. You likely have heard this for a long time. People don't leave jobs or organizations, they leave managers. But I think we're not getting the message, because this is still very true. And two, I think it's becoming more true than it was before. So a big shift is taking place in what's expected of managers. Soft skills are needed now more than ever before. And we could debate, we could discuss the challenges, again, thinking back to those generational working styles. But it's evolved. We're not going back to this time where people just, you work hard and yeah, it sucks, but you suck it up. Those days are gone, and we really need to like put the stake in the ground and acknowledge that we need to hone our soft skills a bit. Understanding employees from a place of emotional intelligence is really critical to the success of the organization. So the responsibilities that are put upon managers are making sure that the right people are in the right place. So back to my story about my teammate that is now thriving after being put in the right place, it can truly make all of the difference. Next is making sure that the right tools and resources are available to your team. And if they're not, it's making sure that your team knows that it's important for them to get them or get plans in place to get them. This is communicating and painting the strategy for your team. So loving the new Taylor Swift album, loving one of the songs. She says, strategy sets the scene for the tale. And when we can incorporate Taylor Swift into any kind of business world, I like to do that. But what she's saying is that the strategy for your company is going to set up how well your company achieves those goals. And your managers, or you as the business owner, you as the business leader, you're responsible for kind of loading up that strategy, painting that picture for them, so then they can have that scene set and go create that tale that you're trying to create through that strategy. You need the people to make it come true. And then often the biggest misunderstanding for management comes, and like we've already discussed, when you have the best person in your organization from a tactical standpoint. Maybe it's someone on your sales team. They really blow it out of the water. They're incredible at sales. A lot of times their inclination is like, well, we need a sales manager. Well, let's promote so-and-so. They're really good at sales. It's a toss-up. Is that person that's really good at their tactical function going to be the best manager? Because when it comes down to it, what your business then is doing becomes more relevant from a management standpoint when you're in the manager seat, or if you're a business leader. Because if you have a good manager, they are going to be people focused. The tactical portion of your department needs to be more focused and given to the people on the team. Then that manager is really making sure that they have everything that they need in order to carry out those tactical tasks. So the next thing you can look at both is from the manager and the team member viewpoint is that managers often think that before you enter into the manager role, that the manager job is often easier. And then people on the team member role think that being the manager is easier. But I don't have to tell anyone watching this webinar how challenging management is. But really thinking about why do we see that? But do you know why it is so challenging? Because having to manage that people, is it because that you get to manage people or because you get to manage people? So really thinking about what's the difference between those two types of inflections. And so you want to make sure that if you are getting to manage people, that you are excited about it. You're excited about these people challenges and you're excited to tackle them. And so let's do what is the vibe check on your managers or yourself. So if it's green, that means your managers, they understand the crucial role that you play in the organization and you love it. Team members feel supported and understood. If it's yellow, maybe you've got a mix of good and bad managers, and you do some due diligence when determining if managers could be better, but it's not great. And then red, maybe it's all your best tactical people typically get promoted, and we know that we leave people leave for poor management, but you're not really doing much about it. So give yourself a rating there. And then kind of take a look at your paper. What do you notice about your assessment? Does anything stand out as needing attention from you ASAP? And then what do you plan to do about it? Start thinking about that plan. How are you going to fix some of this? And if you have anything that you want to drop in the chat that you want to share with the group, please feel free to do that as well. And we will go from there. So start thinking about what is your people plan for 2023. 2023 is quickly approaching. It's really crazy to think about. It's only 2 months away. We firmly believe that these trends are, I just somehow figured out that I turned on closed captioning on my computer here. We firmly believe that these trends are not going away and they will continue to escalate in importance. So our mission at the Alliance is to direct your thinking to a proactive approach. We want to bring information and resources to your attention. And we have said it so many times, and maybe some of you have seen my little picture on social media with a nice little quote saying that people are not listed on the balance sheet under assets, but they should be. And that is because they are so, so, so important. When you have people in your organization shifting to the owner mindset, you increase your odds of success by a great deal. So you can work to attract, retain, and motivate the best people in your workforce, can really elevate you for 2023. And so then if there ever was a time to illustrate uncertainty, it is right now. So many businesses are being punched in the face with people challenges, domestic and international political turmoil, supply chain challenges, inflation, recession rumors. Most of these, if this was just one of these things happening, it would be enough to challenge businesses as they're planning for 2023. But we're getting all of those all at once. And so we are putting together a group of no more than 12 people in one workshop to plan just for that uncertainty. Now, don't get confused. We aren't psychics and we aren't selling you snake oil. We don't have the answers as to what is going to happen. But we do feel like we have the tools and the thought process to help you feel more confident that regardless of what happens, you're going to be prepared with multiple strategies and a strong team to ride the waves. you will be able to dedicate a day of creating a one-page plan for your business focused around your specific opportunities and potential solutions for barriers around people, finances, and delivery of your product or service. And really, I think that the thing that excites me the most about this is being able to collaborate with the people in the organization, in the workshop. Um, so you'll get the opportunity to learn some of our best practices and techniques that we have used to help our clients. You will get your own alliance to lean on and learn from. And this will not just be us talking in front of the computer for 6 hours. I'm sure that after this 1 hour, you're thankful for that, but you'll have the opportunity to talk to other business owners and leaders throughout the whole day. You'll break out into groups with these challenges and really listen to each other's ideas, or maybe past successes or past failures, because we often learn more from that than we do from the success of just things that have been tried to solve some of these issues and different things that people are doing. So we're excited about that. And then you will leave the meeting with a plan in hand, feeling prepared for whatever 2023 brings. So here's some of the details on it. You can always reach out via email as well with any kind of questions. So we are doing it on December 8th and we're doing it on January 12th. It will be online via Zoom, but if you are in the Houston area, we have had a handful of people that have been interested if it was going to be in person. And so that is something that we would entertain if we got enough people interested in it. So if you are, the next slide's going to have Karen's email address. She's handling all of the registrations. You can tell her, hey, I'm in the Houston area, or if you would be willing to travel to the Houston area, and I would like to be there in person, that would be great as well. Again, we are keeping it to 12 people so that the conversations can be intimate and people have a good amount of time to have conversations. And so we do have, it's $1,200 if you register before November 5th. 15th. So be thinking about that if that's something that you're interested in. Yes, it is. I saw in the chat, it is January 12th. So those are our details. Again, this is Karen's email. Email her questions or anything that may come up about this. Feel free. Again, we thank you for being here today with us to talk people. We're very, very thankful for that. I'm sorry, Karen did just correct me. We have an inconsistency on our slide. It is January 19th. We went back and forth with both the dates. I'm prepared for both. If we get 24 people, and some of y'all want it on the 12th and some of y'all want it on the 19th, we can do both. But right now, okay, it is set for the 19th. But again, thank y'all so much for joining us. We love our mission. We love our purpose of helping business owners with their challenges. And so we're very thankful for your support in joining us online. If there's anything that we can help you with, please feel free to reach out. And again, we are always learning from you guys as well. So thank y'all so much. Have a great day.